What if I told you that in 1870, America passed a constitutional amendment promising black men the right to vote and then spent the next century systematically locking them out anyway? Nobody tells you this dark secret. The 15th Amendment was supposed to change everything after the Civil War, but it almost became the most meaningless words in the Constitution. What if this never happened? What if those promises had actually been kept? After the Civil War, the 15th Amendment was ratified on February 3, 1870, declaring that the right to vote could not be denied based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. It was the capstone of the Reconstruction Amendments, alongside the 13th ending slavery and the 14th granting citizenship. For a brief, shining moment during Reconstruction, Black Americans flooded the polls. In the South, over 700 Black men were elected to state legislatures, and figures like Hiram Revels and Blanche Bruce became U.S. senators. Black voter turnout soared. In some states, it reached 90%. But this was a dangerous moment. White supremacists saw it as an existential threat. The powerful enemy was the resurgent Democratic Party in the South, backed by terrorist groups like the Ku Klux Klan. Lynchings, beatings, and massacres terrorized Black communities. The hidden failure? Federal enforcement was weak from the start. The Enforcement Acts of 1870 and 1871 tried to protect voting rights, but a bad decision by the Supreme Court in United States v. Cruikshank in 1876 gutted federal authority, ruling that the 14th and 15th Amendments only applied to state actions, not private violence. Then came the Compromise of 1877. Rutherford B. Hayes became president in exchange for withdrawing the last federal troops from the South, ending Reconstruction. Without protection, the floodgates opened for suppression. But here's the part most people don't know, the viral twist that shows how cunning and insidious this lockdown really was. Southern states didn't just use outright violence, they invented race-neutral laws that appeared legal on paper but were engineered to disenfranchise Black voters while letting poor whites slide through. Poll taxes required paying a fee to vote, devastating for formerly enslaved people with no wealth. Literacy tests were rigged. Registrars gave Blacks impossible questions like reciting the state constitution from memory, while whites got simple quizzes or exemptions. The grandfather clause was the sneakiest. If your grandfather voted before 1867, when only whites could, you could skip the tests entirely. This let illiterate whites vote, but blocked Black descendants of slaves. All-white primaries ensured Democrats, the party of white supremacy, controlled elections before the general vote. In Mississippi's 1890 Constitution, they openly admitted the goal was to obstruct the exercise of suffrage by the Negro. By 1900, Black voter registration in Louisiana plummeted from 130,000 to just 1,342. The Supreme Court enabled this with rulings like Williams v. Mississippi in 1898, upholding these devices. Even in the North, subtle barriers existed, but the South's system was a masterclass in evasion. This wasn't failure by accident, it was a deliberate, multi-decade plot. The problem was overcome through relentless activism and crisis. Decades of Black resistance, from the Niagara Movement to the NAACP, built pressure. World War II and the Cold War exposed America's hypocrisy on democracy abroad while suppressing votes at home. Then came the Civil Rights Movement. Bloody Sunday in Selma, where marchers demanding voting rights were beaten by state troopers in 1965, shocked the nation. President Lyndon B. Johnson pushed through the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which finally enforced the 15th Amendment. It banned literacy tests nationwide, required federal pre-clearance for voting changes in discriminatory jurisdictions, and sent federal observers to monitor elections. Black voter registration exploded. In Mississippi, it went from under 7% to over 60% in years. The 24th Amendment in 1964 had already banned poll taxes in federal elections, and the Supreme Court struck them down entirely in 1966. But it wasn't permanent. The twist here is that even this solution proved fragile, as new tactics like strict ID laws emerged later. History teaches us that rights on paper mean nothing without constant enforcement and vigilance. The 15th Amendment proves that democracy isn't self-sustaining. Powerful interests will always find ways to twist it if we let them. This shows how progress can be reversed, how race-neutral laws can hide deep racism, and why we must guard against voter suppression today, whether through gerrymandering, purging rolls, or barriers that disproportionately hit minorities. That's why the struggle continues. True equality at the ballot box demands eternal commitment, or the locks can snap shut again.